Your technician just told a customer that their system's fine, when it's actually bleeding them dry on utility bills and destroying comfort room by room. Here's what separates top performing HVAC companies from the ones stuck at $300,000 in revenue. The best contractors in this industry treat every system design like it's the foundation for every sale, every install, every callback that they'd never have to make. I'm going to show you exactly why mastering residential system design is the competitive advantage that lets you charge more, close more, and build a business that actually scales beyond your personal ability to turn wrenches. Hi, I'm Chris Morin with HVAC Pro Blog. I started carrying tools at age 16, and over the past almost 30 years, I've watched this industry evolve. I trained thousands of contractors across New England and beyond, and I can tell you right now, the companies dominating their markets aren't doing it with better marketing or cheaper prices. They're doing it with better system design. And most of their competitors don't even understand what they're losing. So let's talk about what proper system design actually means for your business. Not the theoretical textbook version, but the real world impact on your bottom line, your reputation, and your ability to build something that lasts. Most contractors treat HVAC like a commodity replacement business. Customer calls, you quote the equipment, lowest priced wins, install it, move on. Maybe you make a little money, maybe you don't. You're competing with every other contractor in your market on the same terms. And it's a race to the bottom that you can't win because there's always someone willing to work cheaper, cut more corners, or straight up lose money just to keep their trucks rolling. Here's what happens when you actually understand system design and build your business around it. You stop being a commodity. You become a consultant. You no longer compare apples to apples with the competition because you're selling something completely different. You're selling engineered comfort solutions backed by data, not just equipment in a box. Let me tell you about a contractor I worked with last year. Mid-sized company, doing about $800,000 residential equipment. Good reputation, decent margins, but stuck. They were losing about 60% of their quotes to cheaper competitors. Sound familiar? Their average ticket was around $12,000, and they're constantly getting beat by guys coming in at 9 or 10. They implemented proper system design protocols, manual J calculations on every quote, duct evaluation and redesign recommendations, zoning analysis, the whole package. Their average ticket went to $18,000 within 6 months. But here's the kicker. Their close rate went up, not down. They're now closing almost 60% instead of 40%. At higher prices. Why? Because they stopped selling equipment and started solving problems that homeowners didn't even know they had. They could walk into a house, run the numbers, and tell the customer exactly why their master bedroom is always cold, why their energy bills are high, and precisely what it takes to fix it. Not guessing, not using rules of thumb, actual engineering. Think about your sales process right now. Maybe your salesperson or estimator shows up, takes some measurements, looks at the existing system, and generates a quote. How are you differentiating yourself from the 3 other contractors who did the exact same thing? By brand? Everybody's got access to the same brands. Maybe by price. That's a losing game. Reviews? It's important, but not enough. System design is your differentiator. It's what lets you charge premium prices and have customers thank you for it. Here's what proper residential system design actually involves, and why each piece matters to your business. Manual J is your room-by-room heat loss and heat gain calculation. This isn't optional, nice-to-have engineering. This is how you determine the actual load in the home, not square footage times some multiplier you learned 20 years ago. Actual load calculations that account for insulation and windows and orientation, infiltration, everything. When you run a proper load calc or manual J, 2 things happen. First, you immediately spot problems with the existing system. Maybe it's oversized by 50%, which explains the comfort problems and high callbacks. That becomes a selling point. You're not just replacing equipment. You're fixing a problem that's been there for 15 years. Second, you right-size the new system, which improves your margins and reduces your risk. Manual S is equipment selection. This matters because not all 4-ton systems are created equal. You need to match the equipment capacity and characteristics to the specific load and duct design. This prevents oversizing, improves seasonal efficiency, and ensures the new equipment that you're installing can actually do the job. Oversized equipment costs more upfront, costs more to operate, and fails faster. Every time you oversize a system, you're eating into your margin and setting yourself up for future callbacks. Proper sizing protects your bottom line. Manual T covers air distribution and terminal placement. This is about making sure air actually gets into rooms effectively, not just dumped into spaces with poor mixing and dead zones. And Manual D is duct design. And this is where most contractors completely fall apart. They'll quote new equipment and just assume that the existing ducts are fine. Or they'll add some larger supply runs without actually calculating airflow requirements. Then they wonder why they get callbacks for noise, hot spots, and comfort complaints. Professional duct design means you can identify undersized returns, poorly designed supply distribution, and duct leakage that's killing system performance. This creates upsell opportunities that actually solve problems. You're not just throwing products at the customer. You're showing them why their current distribution system can't possibly deliver comfort and what it takes to fix it. Now, here's where it gets interesting from a business perspective. Most contractors see system design as extra work that slows them down. They're wrong. System design is a profit center disguised as engineering. First, it increases your average ticket. When you properly evaluate a home, you uncover issues that need fixing. Duct modifications, air sealing, zoning opportunities, maybe ventilation problems. Each one is a line item that improves the final installation and increases your revenue. I've seen proper system design add anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 to average tickets. Second, it improves your close rate. Homeowners are skeptical of contractors. They've been burned before, but when you show up with actual data, when you can explain exactly what's wrong and precisely how to fix it, you build credibility that your competitors can't match. You're not just another guy with a tape measure and a catalog. Third, it reduces callbacks. This is huge and nobody talks about it enough. Every callback costs you money, damages your reputation, and demoralizes your installation crews. Proper system design eliminates the guesswork that causes most callbacks. The system works as designed because it was actually designed. Fourth, it protects you legally. In many jurisdictions, load calculations are required by code. If something goes wrong and you end up in court or dealing with a claim, having proper engineering documentation protects you. Weighing it leaves you exposed. And fifth, it builds referrals. When a system actually works as promised, customers tell their friends. They become advocates. They send you business. That's how you grow without spending a fortune in marketing. But here's the reality in most HVAC companies. The sales process and the installation process are completely disconnected. Your salesperson quotes based on rough estimates and moves on. Your installer shows up, looks at what was sold, and does his best to make it work. Nobody actually engineered anything. You're hoping experience and skill can overcome the lack of planning. That works sometimes, but it fails enough times to cost you serious money in callbacks, remediation, and lost reputation. I've been teaching ACCA standards for 13 years now, working with contractors from one truck operations to companies with 50 techs. The ones who actually implement system design protocols consistently outperform their markets. They grow faster, profit more, and build businesses that aren't dependent on the owner's personal ability to fix everything. Think about that contractor I mentioned earlier who went from $800,000 to over $1 million by implementing proper design. That growth wasn't from working longer hours or hiring more salespeople. It was from charging appropriately for better work and closing more deals at higher margins. Here's what implementation actually looks like in a real company. You need someone who can run calculations. It might be you initially, or a senior estimator, or a dedicated design tech. The software exists, it's not that expensive, and a competent person can learn it in a few weeks with some proper training. You need it to build your sales process. Your estimator or salesperson needs to communicate the value of proper design to customers. That means training them on how to talk about Manual J, why duct design matters, and how to differentiate your approach from competitors who are just swapping boxes. You need to connect design to installation. Your install crews need to understand the engineering that went into the job. They need to follow the duct design, place equipment where specified, and install to the specifications that ensure the system performs as calculated. And you need to measure results. Track your callbacks on engineered jobs versus non-engineered jobs. Track your close rates. Track your average tickets. The data will prove the value faster than any theoretical argument. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds like a lot of work. It adds time to my sales process. It requires training and investment. And yes, it's all true. But consider what you're doing now. How many quotes are you generating that you don't close? How much time are you spending on proposals for customers who just pick someone else based on price? How many callbacks are you running where your tech can't figure out what's wrong because the system was never properly designed in the first place? All of that is waste. System design eliminates waste by front-loading the engineering that makes everything else work better. I've met contractors who tell me they can't afford to do proper design because it takes too long. Then I look at their numbers and they're doing $2 million in revenue with 3% net profit. They're busy, they're tired, and they're barely making any money. That's not success. It's a very expensive job where you happen to own the company. Compare that to contractors doing $1.5 million with 15% net profit because they charge appropriately for properly engineered work. They're less busy, less stressed, and making 5 times as much money. That's the difference system design makes at the business level. And here's something else that matters: market positioning. When you build your business around system design, you're positioning yourself as the premium provider. You're attracting customers and employees who value quality over price. Those customers exist in every market. They're just not calling you right now because you're not giving them a reason to. They're calling the contractors who educate through content, who demonstrate expertise, who show up with engineering instead of guesswork. Those contractors are charging 20 to 30% more and still staying busy because they're serving a different segment of the market. And here's what really frustrates me. Most contractors have the technical knowledge to do this. You understand heat loss. You understand equipment performance. You're just not systematizing it, and you're not communicating effectively to prospective customers. The best salespeople I've trained aren't the smoothest talkers or the hardest closers. They're the ones who can explain Manual J to a homeowner in 3 minutes and make it compelling. They can show duct design layouts and explain why proper airflow distribution matters. They're trying to make engineering sexy, and it works. Your competition is not doing this. I know because I've trained thousands of contractors and I see their operations. Most companies are still quoting based on square footage and hoping for the best. That's your opportunity. When you master system design, you're not just improving individual jobs. You're transforming your entire business model. You're moving from commodity replacement to engineered solutions. From competing on price to competing on value. From hoping customers choose you to knowing exactly why they should. This is how you build a business that scales. Because proper system design can be documented, systematized, and taught to others. You can hire and train people to run calculations, to communicate value, and install to spec. You're not dependent on tribal knowledge and experience that lives only in your head. Think about where you want your business to be in 3 years. If you want to grow, you need to charge more and close more. If you want to charge more, you need to deliver more value. And the most tangible, demonstratable value you can deliver in residential HVAC is properly engineered comfort that actually works as promised. That's not marketing fluff. That's engineering backed by standards that have existed for decades. You're just not using them consistently. All right, here's my challenge to you. Take your next 5 residential replacement quotes and run proper Manual J calcs on all of them. Actually evaluate the ductwork. Present engineered solutions instead of equipment quotes, and see what happens to your close rate and your average ticket. I guarantee you'll be surprised. Not because the concept is new, but because you'll finally see what's been possible all along. You've been competing with one hand tied behind your back, and you didn't even know it. To get a complete framework for implementing this in your business and evaluating every weak link in your current process, watch the 15-point HVAC system design audit that shows you exactly where money's fallen through the cracks. I'll see you soon.